This week on the Powell Not Found podcast, for the first time in 15 years, the Yankees are going to the World Series. They are the American League pennant winners after a gritty win. Here we go. Let's hit it. I am happy. Let's go.
I'm gonna tell you a story about a girl who loves gin. A national pandemic seized her birthday celebration. Although she knew it was coming, we tried not to tell her. She brewed some Irish breakfast tea. She knew her birthday was getting corona. It was like those.
Got a steal. Soto, a high fly ball to center. Thomas backing up. Thomas at the track. And Juan Soto! A three-run home run! Soto magic in Game 5!
Soto magic. Soto.
Incredible moment as Juan Soto goes deep to give the Yankees a 5-2 lead in the 10th inning.
Juan Soto going deep last night to give the Yankees a 5-2 lead. One of the home runs that has got to be etched in Yankee history forever. A gritty game, but man, what a way for him to come through. What a way for him to make his mark in his first year, maybe his only year as a Yankee, to come through in that moment. There must have been two things that were happening. One, Yankees fans around the nation were probably going nuts, going crazy, not believing what they just saw, how clutch he can be in these moments. And also, Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner probably realized at the same moment that they're going to have to find $700 million in the bank somewhere to give to Juan Soto. Because, we thought it was very impactful when Judge hit 62 on his walk year. But seeing something like that, having an Aaron Boone-like moment to clinch the American League pennant has got to be one of the best moments in Yankee history for a while. And this is coming right after the heels of what could have been a historic moment in Game 3. When Judge went deep and then Giancarlo took the lead with a back-to-back home runs. Man, what a game. I mean, it's the first time in 15 years, as we said it at the top of the show, that the Yankees are going to the World Series. They are advancing. They are the American League champions. It's been a long road, right? It's been a long road with this team. And this series proved to me a couple things, right? It proved to me how gritty this team is. And I'll be the first one to line up and say I did not believe that this team had it in them. I didn't believe that this team had the length. I didn't believe that this team had the depth to go that far in the playoffs. I think that history, showed me that that the Yankees basically, they get to the dance and then they can't kind of put it away, right? And this season was a little bit different. This season was something a little bit more magical than the other seasons. I mean, we always got stopped by the Houston Astros. The Astros were bounced early in this team, and everybody was saying it's an easy walk to the World Series. It's an easy walk to the World Series. And everybody knows when people start saying that in the media, the universe has a way of getting in front of your team and saying, it wasn't that easy, huh? And boy, did the Yankees prove everyone right. Advancing to the World Series in 5 games behind mammoth a mammoth home run by Juan Soto, and I don't know if you saw it in the celebration that they had the post game as they awarded the ALCS MVP. The Yankee fans that stayed over in Progressive Field were chanting "Resign Soto" right in front of Hal Steinbrenner. So again, even as Hal Steinbrenner hoisted up that trophy, I imagine that there was something going through his mind that said, we're going to have to move some accounts around to find that $700 million to give to Juan Soto, especially after this. So the Yankees advanced to the World Series the first time since 2009. It's really been the first time they've been in the dance. Since then, they've gotten close a number of times in 2019. In 2017, they got close. In 2022, they just got bounced. They got swept. And so this erases a lot of that, right? Like it quiets all the criticism of Judge being the centerpiece, of Cole being the centerpiece, and them being a good team but not being able to punch that ticket to break that ceiling and get to the actual final act here. So they will face either the Dodgers or the Mets in the World Series. I believe they'll start either in LA if LA advances, or in New York and home if the Mets advance. So, man, what a series! First, before we get started, let me just remind everybody, this is the Powell Not Found podcast. This is for the week of October 20th. What a day yesterday, October 19th. Will be etched in Yankees history forever. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, and review and rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts. I believe we're on Spotify and other podcast services. So go find us that way as well. Last night, let's just talk about Juan Soto's home run last night too, because so many things to talk about in terms of this series. 5 really, really, really tough games. Juan Soto's home run last night reminded me so much. And they made the comparisons last night that the last extra inning home run that sent the Yankees to the World Series was 2003. On the backs of a Aaron Boone home run by way of a knuckleball from Tim Wakefield to have them advance in 7 games. Now, there's a little bit of a gravitas to that home run because it's the bottom of the 9th. It's Game 7. It's the biggest home run in Yankees history. Would have been so much better had they won the World Series that year, because then it would have been the momentum builder that would have been talked about in the way that other big swings in Yankee history are talked about. But because they didn't finish the fight there, it will still go down as a great moment, but maybe not the most memorable moment in Yankees history. Same thing with like the Jeter home runs in 2001 against the Diamondbacks, and if they didn't finish the fight, right? So they don't have as much legacy tied to them. But this one last night, albeit we don't know what the final result of the World Series will be, right? Man, what a moment for him to come through in that at bat. And if we go back to the top of the 10th, right? You have a costly error from Rocchio, right? That should have really ended the inning. The Yankees caught a break. As they did a lot in this series. I mean, Rocchio also had a pop-up error that led to a run, I believe, in Game 1 or Game 2. And they took advantage of the moment, right? Glaber striking out beforehand. It's, at first I was like, oh, this is a momentum killer. I think if you get to the bottom of the 10th, in this game last night, I think you have another Guardians walk-off win, and then you're heading to New York, and all the momentum is on Cleveland's side, right? But a rare error from a really good defensive Cleveland team comes out in the top of the 10th. Both runners are safe. Glaber strikes out, and Juan Soto just keeps fouling off pitches. Having seen Juan Soto a lot with the Nationals, having seen him because he was a local player, and seeing the difference maker that he is, and he was in 2019 for a Nats team that was really good. I mean, Zimmerman, Rendon, Strasburg, Soto, right? I mean, there was that lineup was stacked, right? For everyone saying that, oh, the Nationals were under 500 during the break. Yeah, they were a good team, though, right? I mean, Soto came through also to advancing them in the NLCS. With a shot down the line, he makes a difference in this lineup that beforehand, when we talked about his addition in the beginning of this podcast earlier this year, I said on Mike, I said, is Soto going to be that much of a difference maker? Look what he got traded to San Diego, but it didn't give them, it wasn't like they were in the World Series every single year. Boy, do I have to take that back. Just the presence of him in a lineup that features Judge, a Giancarlo Stanton, who's on. I mean, Giancarlo October. I'm trying to make it a thing. Big G in October is a different person. But just Juan Soto's presence in the lineup just makes a difference, right? It makes pitchers pitch differently, knowing that they have three Bash brothers right at one after another. And the addition of Rizzo. I know Rizzo is lower in the lineup right now, and he's hurt. But having those three people to get through your lineup, I mean, time after time after time again in this series, their presence and their ability to hit in clutch moments, Jeter-esque, always coming up with the big hits, always switching the momentum, is such a big factor in this series. I mean, even let's go back to Game 3, right? The gut punch of Game 3. You have Judge tying up that game. You have Giancarlo hitting a home run to take the lead. And then our closer gets tagged. Luke Weaver gives up the home run to Big Christmas, which, by the way, has to be top 10 of best baseball nicknames ever. I mean, I want to be called Big Christmas, right? Who doesn't? And one of the better calls on TBS by Brian Anderson, Big Christmas leaving a present underneath the tree, has got to be one of the best calls in baseball history. Even Ron Darling couldn't help but just start chuckling, even though Ron Darling's laughing at everything in the Mets booth. Right? But what a great call. And then David Fry with the walk-off for Cleveland. I mean, so much about that game when the Yankees walked off the field and the Guardians were walking it off. So much of that game could have been a momentum shift. So much of that game could have been like the start of when the Guardians put it all together. They used that momentum. And God, they almost did in Game 4. Big Christmas almost came through again against Mark Leiter Jr. I mean, that was the scariest warning track flyout I've ever seen in Game 4. And yet, what do you see Juan Soto do in the beginning of Game 4? Glaber gets on, 2-run shot. That is how you stop momentum. That is how you flush it, as the Yankees like to say, which is a gross metaphor, but we'll take it. You flush what happened the day before, and you keep on going. That mental veracity, that mental toughness that they talk about all year long is really hard to believe sometimes when they are not going well, when they're losing at a historic pace, right? In the middle of the season. It is hard to take them seriously when they say that. But that mental toughness showed itself in this series, and it paid off. And Juan Soto was leading the charge, making sure that the Yankees took it one game at a time and got back on track in Game 4, and really just set up this beautiful historic win. A beautiful historic win in Game 5. I mean, what a shot. Again, going back to what I said in the beginning of the podcast, did I think Juan Soto's presence could make up for 14 games from an 82 and 80 season? No, I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. What a presence in the lineup. I want to also talk about Giancarlo Stanton. Giancarlo Stanton, we need to talk about the Cinderella story that Giancarlo Stanton is having. And we want to be a little bit, cognizant of the fact that the Yankees just won the pennant, right? There's still 4 more wins to go in this season to get to the final destination, right? I think everybody's aware of that, but the World Series doesn't start until the 25th. So there's going to be some time. There's going to be a lot of analysis of players and matchups, especially once we know the matchup or the result of the Mets and the Dodgers, and they're going back to Dodger Stadium, and they're finishing that game out either tonight or tomorrow in either 6 or 7. So once we know who we're facing, it's going to be nonstop analysis. I think Major League Baseball is happy that the Yankees are back in it. I am happy that the Yankees are back in it. It's been a long time. I mean, I think people don't realize that since the baseball format has changed, it is tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher to have a run like we did in the 1990s, like the Yankees did in the 1990s, late 1990s, I should say, or even the Braves in the early 1990s. Because so many factors and so many rounds can just knock you out, right? So many things can happen. Everything has to line up and be right? And look at the series. I mean, it didn't take. There were a couple moments in the series where I was like, oh no, the momentum's going to shift. Game 3, biggest one. The Yankees base running mistakes. Oh my gosh, right? That's one of the things that, like, when the Yankees started running into outs on the base paths, right? You have John Sterling. I think I've got it queued up here. When you have John Sterling saying that they run the bases like drunks, you do not start to believe that this is a World Series team. Let's take a listen to this audio because it's great. And let me tell you, one of the best things and one of the heart-wrenching things about this season was that John Sterling retired, right? And the fact that they brought him back for the postseason. A lot of people were saying, oh, like they should give him to the young guys, give the opportunity. Nothing fits better than John Sterling in a World Series. It makes me feel like I'm young again. What a great move, especially this year, having him in the World Series with Susan Waldman, so you can get calls like this one. This is Anthony Rizzo and Jazz getting picked off in game 2. Right, game 2 of the ALCS. Let's take a listen to this audio.
The 0-2, a bouncer, and Rizzo is going to be picked off. He's in the middle between second and third. Hedges now throws to second, on the way to third, back to second, back to third, tagged out, end of inning. Boy, if that wasn't the Yankees, that's what they do, run the bases like drunks. Well, Glaber will lead off the next inning.
Listen, John Sterling tells it like it is. If you ever listen to his broadcasts regularly, like he not only goes into anecdotes that you've never heard before, but he takes chances and he tells it exactly how it is on the field and what they're playing like. He does not hold back. He calls it like he sees it. And after moments like that, yeah, the Yankees were running into outs, right? They were giving away outs to the Cleveland Guardians. Jazz getting picked off before that, right, which led to that comment at second base. Anthony Rizzo getting tied up. Jose Trevino in Game 3 getting picked off of first base after he dunked in an RBI single. And then the play with Anthony Volpe. Anthony Volpe from going to the right side and trying to advance to third base after a ball is hit to the right side and kind of gets bailed out, right? He doesn't run into an out because Jose Ramirez can't hold on to the ball. These are the kind of things that we talked about earlier this season about, like, the Yankees just need to be sharper, right? The Yankees need to be cognizant because you give away 4 outs like that, that could be the difference in the series, and that could be the momentum shift in giving a series like this away. Now, it didn't bite them this time. Maybe cost a couple runs for sure. But especially the, I believe it was Jazz, because the next person who was coming up, I believe, was Giancarlo, and Giancarlo hit a home run. So it's like, you can't count on that, but hey, it could have been. You could have opened up a bigger lead for your pitching staff and for your bullpen, but wow. I mean, it's what a series also too. Let's talk about Giancarlo for a second because I want to talk about that Cinderella story of his season. And I think that's one of the things that last night after the game, he gets awarded the ALC MVP. For those of you that don't know, the ALCS and ALC MVP, ALCS MVP, he gets awarded, Giancarlo gets awarded the ALCS MVP. And for those who don't know, the ALCS and the NLCS and the World Series, they both get awarded an MVP. I don't believe they started with the Division Series. And it goes to your most valuable player, right? And there's nothing more fitting than having it go to Giancarlo Stanton. Giancarlo Stanton, 4 for 18. He had, Giancarlo, 3 walks, batting .222 with a .333 on-base percentage and .889 slugging. But I think it came down to the fact that he was always hitting the home run in clutch situations, whether it's to take the lead in the eventful Game 3, whether it's to tie the game tonight, when the Yankees just weren't hitting. Like if it wasn't for Giancarlo hitting that home run, we wouldn't be sitting in this situation. We'd be going back to New York with a Game 6 on our hands. And so very, very fitting. But I want to kind of go back to the beginning of the season, right? Like after the Yankees lost their opportunity to go to the playoffs in 2023, Giancarlo entered basically a fitness routine, and he told everybody he was going to lose bulk, right? And he kind of physically transformed himself, right? Because he was getting injured on the field so many times, over and over and over again. You even had Brian Cashman come out and say he was, injury was part of his game, right? Which couldn't exactly go over well. Even I believe his agent had something to say about that too, where it's like, okay, you don't normally see a general manager go after a player like that in such a direct manner. Giancarlo came back this season looking a little less like Giancarlo Stanton, a little less bulky, a little less, American Gladiator looking, and looked a little bit leaner on the base path. And yet again, still ended up getting kind of hurt, pulling a hammy in the middle of the season. And Giancarlo came back, and he was having a pretty good season too. Let's be real. Like if he had stayed on the field, he would have, hit, I don't know, 35 home runs, 40 home runs, maybe. Maybe he would have had a career year had he stayed healthy. But he gets hurt again, right? And another setback. And he comes back, and once he comes back, you start to see that he's fortifying that lineup. Yes, is he a Giancarlo that's going to steal 40 bases? Absolutely not, right? But what does he do in this last series with the Royals? He hits, he fortifies the lineup, he steals a base. That continues to still be, I know Juan Soto hit a historic home run, but Giancarlo Stanton stealing a base after Bob Costas just kept on going at him is still the moment of the postseason. I know Juan Soto had a huge home run last night and sent the Yankees to the World Series. Giancarlo stealing a base is going to be the moment where the documentary stops and goes, this was the most magical moment of the season. He comes back. He is a force to be reckoned with. He puts the team on his back, and he does the same thing here. What a story for Giancarlo Stanton this series, and going to his first pennant after he tried to chase it with the Marlins for so many years, and then came to the Yankees and essentially was supposed to be the Juan Soto, was supposed to be the guy fortifying Judge. And for him to play such an instrumental role is only fitting. It is very, very fairy tale-like ending for this team. Now, granted, we still have to go to the World Series, but his performance on the field, his just mammoth shots. I mean, like, these shots don't even look like they're hit out, and they're like 15 rows back. Like, he's just that strong. For his hits, all to be home runs, 7 RBIs, 16 total bases, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, but that's going to happen with G. But he just looks like he's locked into a different level in the postseason, And when you have a team that is full of superstars like the Yankees, and your biggest superstar, Aaron Judge, right, only getting, on base at a 261 clip for this series, you need someone else to pick up the slack. And who better than Giancarlo Stanton, the home run hitting machine and the, stealing base machine in the ALDS. Anyways, I'm really happy for him. I feel like Giancarlo Stanton gets a lot of grief, and so much of our criticism of Giancarlo's play is how much of a during the season, how much of a drag it can be if he's on base, right? It becomes station to station, how unathletic it looks, right? And all of that gets erased, the strikeouts, the swinging it down and away sliders, all of that's erased when you do it in October like this and you put a team on your back. And so what a beautiful, beautiful redemption for Giancarlo Stanton. And hopefully when the World Series gets sent to the Bronx, hopefully there's a lot of cheers for Giancarlo Stanton, because for all the boos he's gotten in the regular season, hopefully the Bronx gives him a positive Bronx cheer, because boy, does he deserve it. A lot of the other players on the lineup, I mean, Austin Wells looked a little bit lost at the plate, but we saw him kind of wake up with a home run shot. Anthony Volpe, a 353 average against the Indians. Juan Soto, 368 average, 478 on base percentage. And can we talk about Gleyber Torres setting the tone? I mean, the whole season was defined by Volpe being up front, right? I remember Boone saying, Volpe's going to be, I think last year, Volpe's going to see the leadoff spot more times in his career than not. So we might as well put him up there. And boy, was he on fire in the beginning of the season. And then he started to, the league made the adjustment, right? And Gleyber, who was having a tough year, who is having a rough year for his last year on contract with the Yankees, who has stated publicly that he wants to still be with the Yankees, who went through a tough trade deadline because we didn't know if Gleyber was going to be on the team by the end, right? Were they going to try to get some prospects for Gleyber? Did they want to stick with the team? I wanted Gleyber to be on this team. Something about winning, even if they had gone all the way, and if they do go all the way, if they win these next 4 games, because it all comes down to 4 games now. If the Yankees win, you want them to win with Gleyber, because outside of Judge, outside of Cole, outside of Stanton, who's the one Yankee that's been there from the longest, right? Since we got him from the minor leagues of the Cubs. It's been Gleyber Torres, right? Who's the most casual second baseman in the league? Gleyber Torres, right? Who do you want to win with? Gleyber Torres. And he has been on fire, just getting on base at a 400 clip. The man is Ted Williams on the leadoff spot. It's just really nice to see all these people, Gleyber kind of pick up the team, and Gleyber set the tone in the beginning of the lineup and be aggressive, right? There were moments of this series, where you saw the Yankees just look at pitches, right? It reeked of early 2000s, mid 2000s Yankee teams where they were patient and then they were too patient, right? The Yankees during this series walked 22 times. Let me take this back. 22 times they walked. So they are a patient bunch, right? And that's great to get on base. But at some point, you have to swing the bat. And the fact that Gleyber comes away with 8 hits, a double, and 2 RBIs, 9 total bases, that kind of aggression in the beginning of the lineup is something that you want to see, right? And this series highlighted 2 really pretty good leadoff hitters in Gleyber Torres and Can we talk about Stephen Kwan for the Cleveland Guardians? I mean, man, that guy looks and feels like Ichiro at the top of the lineup. Like when he struck out once, I believe, in this entire series. Yeah, Stephen Kwan strikes out once, right? The rest of his team strikes out 46 times, including Josh Naylor, 7 strikeouts, Jimenez, 6 strikeouts, Lane Thomas, 6 strikeouts. Stephen Kwan, 1. Right? Stephen Kwan ends the series with a 5 for 21 clip, getting on base at a .360 on base percentage. That's a pretty good leadoff hitter, right? A scrappy, old school, set the tone leadoff hitter. Man, I guess this is a good segue to talk about the Cleveland Guardians, because what a team, what a team they have what a team that they have. I think we're going to see the Cleveland Guardians a lot in the future. You know, the Yankees are going to be a different team next year. So depending on whether they sign Soto, depending on whether Rizzo and Glaber re-sign, whether they have the money to do that, whether they want to do that, right? So the Yankees are going to go through a complete and utter transformation. Even Jonathan Loaizaga, who got hurt earlier in the season, free agent, right? We may have seen his last pitch as a Yankee reliever. Clay Holmes, same thing. So, but I think for the future, right? The team is young. Pedro Martinez said it on the post game last night that the Cleveland Guardians shouldn't hang their heads at all, because they are a gritty team. You saw 2 teams that were separated by 1 win, 2 wins this season. The Yankees ended up at 94. I think they had 92 wins. I mean, a gritty team led by Jose Ramirez, and a defensively beautiful team, right? That's why the Yankees kind of caught a break, right? You don't see those errors from Jimenez to Rocchio last night on the double play ball before Soto gets up or Glaber gets up. You don't see that very often, them botch a play like that. And maybe it's just the intensity of the moment. Maybe it's something like that. But you don't see them do that. You don't see Brian Rocchio drop a pop-up in Game 2. This team is solid. This team is, if they're not going to win the pennant next year, they are going to knock on the door every single year. The Central looks like, especially considering the White Sox are in the Central, you know, and people were kind of doubting the Guardians, saying, oh, you know, they have the White Sox in their division. They got, you know, they collected more wins. No, this team's good. You just saw the Yankees. Any of these games could have gone any way, right? It wasn't the NLCS. The NLCS is defined by blowout, 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 right? You know who's winning that game within the first, 3 innings. Why? I don't know, right? It's been, what they say, the first series since 1958 that's been defined by 4 or more runs each game. This was a ticky-tacky, gritty series that could have gone either direction, right? Each game was just sit on the edge of your seat, exciting. And it was because of the toughness of the Cleveland Guardians. So, you have to give credit where credit's due. This team is going to be around for a long time. They're young, big Christmas. John Kensky, Noel. I mean, don't pitch to that guy, you know? I mean, you know, tagging not only our closer and creating that narrative in the middle of the series wasn't great for a Yankees fan, because not only do we think the Clay Holmes stuff was behind us, but John Kensky Noel, puts a dagger through Luke Weaver and all of a sudden shakes your confidence in a closer that looked untouchable. Of course, he was going to give up a run, but the way that he tagged that changeup, it certainly kind of sent shockwaves through the Yankee fan base. David Fry tagging Clay Holmes. And Clay Holmes still looked a little bit shaky, right, in the last 2 games. And a lot of that probably is due to seeing the reliever over and over and over and over again. Stephen Vogt, for a rookie manager, taking over for the legendary Terry Francona, who was retired for a year until he's back with the Cincy Reds next year. some daring, bold moves, right? Taking Bybee, Tanner Bybee out in the second game so early, and it paying off, right? Like, is something that I don't feel like you see a lot. There are bullpen games, but they go in with the intention of, having a pitcher pitch 2 innings and go to another one and go to another one and go to another one. But this is your Shane Bieber. This is your Garrett Cole, right? This is the person who took over for Shane Bieber when Shane Bieber went down with the injury earlier this year. And to take him out with an inning and a third, right? That is the kind of fan move that you make from the 5th row of the stadium, right? Every single time a Yankee struck out, I yelled, "Trade him." It's not rational. It's a reaction that I have because I want the team to win. Taking your ace out with like 4 outs recorded, even if he's in trouble, right? I understand it's the postseason, but it's a bold move, right? And it kind of goes to and it paid off a lot of the times. Now, some of the people that they pitched to, I would say Stephen Vogt probably has some second guessing to do as they go into the off season here about like, why do you pitch to Stanton when you know he's hot? When you have batters around Stanton that like Jazz, like Wells, that are not having the kind of season. Like, why do you pitch to them? Giancarlo hitting the 2-run shot with a man on third base, right after Judge, I believe, grounds into the double play to tie the game in Game 5. Just put him on, right? Get the powerful bat out of his hands, right? It's easier to pitch to a batter that's struggling than a batter that's seeing the ball like a beach ball coming in. There are managerial decisions that I'm sure that there's going to be second guess, but like, you can't take away from how gritty this team was, how aggressive the team was, and how they reminded me of the 2004 Red Sox, where the 2004 Red Sox were a hit machine, and they were aggressive, and they put the ball in play. They weren't afraid to get things going, to get things in motion. We didn't see a lot of that from the Cleveland Guardians this series until the later part of the series when they started running the bases. They were running on Jose Trevino, stealing that third base. I think I want to say it was Lane Thomas, but I could be wrong. Their aggression defined them, and boy, again, it led to these games being gritty, to a lot of extra shots of whiskey being put in the old fashioned to make sure that nerves are not as tense as they should be. And boy, what a good team and do they have, and what a bullpen. I mean, yes, did Cade Smith got tagged in this series. Gaddis got tagged. Clase got tagged twice, but it doesn't take away from the actual strength of that bullpen. All year they were really good. Clase and the Yankees is probably something that will probably have to be hashed out, but even he had a little redemption in Game 5 in the bottom of the ninth, mowing down the people that he needed to mow down. So what a team the Cleveland Guardians are, and what a series. It's going to go down as one of the best, most exciting series that the Yankees have had in recent memory. And what a challenger and what a fight that they put up. So with that, the Yankees are going to the World Series. It is hard to explain as a fan the shock that I feel that they finally punched the ticket, and how a lot of these things have come together, right? That they're led and managed by Aaron Boone, a man who led the Yankees to a World Series in 2003. The mistakes of the series will be analyzed, right? The narrative of Anthony Rizzo coming out and being one of the best hitters this series. I mean, look at the difference. I mean, defensively, I'll give you that. It wasn't the greatest series for Anthony Rizzo. Mark Leiter throwing a really tough, fast pitch right to Rizzo, standing about a foot from him, is probably not Rizzo's fault, even though like in slow motion everything looks easy to catch. You're like, just react. But defensively, Rizzo looked a little bit weird. You got to think that maybe the hand is affecting him a little bit. And you saw him in the last game get defensively replaced by Oswaldo Cabrera. But Anthony Rizzo goes 6 for 14 in this postseason, 429 average, 500 on base percentage. In the Royals series, we did not have Rizzo. They were platooning. They were platooning Birdie and Oswaldo Cabrera. And these people, and they filled in, right? But when you see Rizzo in the lineup and you see what he brings to 2 walks too. He's a 1 OPS, so right on the money. When you see what he brings and the momentum that he brings in the lineup and the presence he brings and the protection at the bottom of the lineup, boy, did he make his presence feel noticed in the postseason. And with 2 broken fingers, even more astounding that he's playing through the pain and performing. You know, everybody's banged up in October, but the man has 2 fractured fingers, and he's still in the top 5 people of hits racked up. He's still in the top 3 in terms of OPS. I mean, that is a warrior. That is a player. That is a veteran lineup. It feels so good to have him back in the lineup. I'll only imagine that as the massive off days happen again, as we wait for the NLCS to wrap up and the World Series to start, that only extra time with those fingers is going to help him kind of heal. Also, too, the Yankees had the bye this season, so whatever they were doing to get them ready for the Royals, keep doing for the World Series. This is going to be special for me. I personally, in 2009, when the Yankees won it the last time, 15 years ago, I was 20 years old. And I didn't get to watch a lot of that World Series. I was in college. I was doing plays. I was in theater. And my life was a little bit more busy, right? As it should be, right? As you get into college and stuff, you have a social life. And baseball kind of takes a back seat. And I remember coming back from play practice, coming back from doing a show called Picasso at the Lapina Gil, right? I watched the games at the end, right? And, obviously I was still following it, right? Like still trying to have those conversations with people, at the restaurant and talking about the show, and with one eye kind of like looking at the TV above going, okay, the Yankees are doing well. The Yankees are doing well. And I remember that series was tough, right? We were going up against a defending world champion in the Phillies. And, I caught it when I could, right? And I caught the game 6 when they finally, closed it out. I caught a lot at the end of that game. And I remember just feeling relief because that game, when they won it and they won the World Series, it was redemption from 2001, redemption from 2003, redemption from 2004, right? And years of them getting blanked or kicked out of the postseason earlier than they should. In 2008, they didn't even make the postseason in the final year of Yankee Stadium. And then they had the new stadium, and things were new, the energy was new, and they added Teixeira, they added CC Sabathia, they added Burnett, right? Who was a key part of. I want to say Burnett was also part of that 2003 Marlins team, that pitching staff that was crazy. But I remember Beckett in Game 6. But anyways, so to me, when they won the World Series there, it was relief, right? It was the Yankees are back on top. Finally, it felt like it was a long period of time between the 9 years between 2000 and 2009. And my awareness of watching that series and being invested was not nearly at the level it is now. As a kid, And, I didn't track them all season, right? I didn't watch them all season. I didn't talk about them all season. I think those teams were a lot stronger than the team is going into this World Series for sure. But the game has changed a lot. It's been 15 years. It's, which, for other franchises does not seem like a long time. I realize that this is a spoiled Yankees fan. But for now, to see them punch the ticket finally after 2017, the cheating scandal, after 2019, after 2021, getting bounced by the Red Sox, after 2018, getting bounced by the Red Sox, in 20, even before that, being bounced by the Tigers, being bounced by the Rangers, being bounced by the Astros again in 2022, in 2019, and 2022, to not make the playoffs last year. What a relief it is to finally see them break down the door with authority and to see some of these players really shine. And there was last night in the broadcast, there was no one's got to be more relieved than Brian Cashman, right? I mean, Brian Cashman, after every game, if you ever go on Twitter, after every game, he's constantly trending. I mean, there are probably two people that are trending in the country, which is probably like the president and Brian Cashman, right? Like, who are constantly trending or in the news. And last night, TBS shot to a shot of basically when the Yankees finally punched their ticket, and Brian Cashman looked relieved for the first time in 15 years. Obviously, there's still more to go. There's still more to play, but if we take off our Yankees hat for a little bit, right? World Series are a failure. If we take off that hat, you have to give credit to the roster construction that he did this year, the faith that he put in the roster construction this year, the fact that if you look at it on paper, it doesn't look that different from the team last year, except for the addition of Jazz and Verdugo and Soto, and yet they're the best team in the American League, and now they are for sure the best team in the American League after winning the pennant last night. And after seeing Soto, go back and look at the clip. After Soto hits the home run, you see Brian Cashman kind of like kiss a prayer hand, to the sky. And you got to imagine that this, even regardless of what happens in the World Series, that this has got to be an accomplishment for the team after 15 long years. I mean, I was 20. I'm 35 now since the last time this happened. And so let's enjoy it, right? Let's look at this in a way where this doesn't happen all the time. It's really tough to get to the World Series each year. And I know that the Yankee hate is going to be on high. It's going to be on threat level midnight for the next couple weeks. But I'm going to enjoy it. Every game, win or lose. This doesn't happen very often. The Yankees are the American League champions. They are the pennant winners. And they are 4 wins away from becoming the world champions. And they are going to face a uphill battle, as Giancarlo said last night. They are going to either face a magical Mets team, if they can pull it off, powered by Grimace, or they're going to face a Dodgers team that was built and constructed and architected for the World Series, with the additions of Tyler Glasnow, with the additions of Shohei Ohtani, with the addition of Yamamoto. This is going to be either a great Subway Series or New York versus LA. It's the great actor's decision, right? Which one's better, New York or LA? Theater versus film. East Coast versus West Coast. Or a battle in New York that's going to rival the 2000 World Series with an intensity that I think we haven't seen before. Because and boy, would that be fun for New York. Maybe not great for ratings around the country, and not great for Major League Baseball. But boy, would it be fun to see a rematch. I mean, remember all the things that happened in the 2000 World Series. I mean, that was Roger Clemens and Mike Piazza, the bat throwing incident. That was pretty intense. So let's just enjoy it. We have a week off. The World Series starts on Friday, October 25th, and goes until about November 2nd if they go for all 7 games. I believe the National League has home field advantage. I would tell you whether that's a fact. I just can't figure it out anymore because they keep changing the postseason. So I believe that if the Dodgers win, they're going to LA. If the Mets win, well, they're going home, right? So they're going home and away, right? For 15 years, I've been waiting to say this. I'll close out the podcast with this. I am very happy. I let out a audible just shock, and I was ecstatic when Juan Soto hit that home run, and then when the last out came, and who else, right? The last pop out to Juan Soto. Who else would take that the last out of the ALCS? I mean it's only fitting that it went to Juan Soto, and as he closed his glove, elation. I know sports is just sports, and it's silly and stupid, and we're rooting for laundry, right? But man, it felt good to see them punch the ticket and get to the World Series. And for congratulations to the Yankees, congratulations to all the fans for sticking it out. Congratulations to everybody getting through October. There's a reason that baseball is romantic, and it's moments like that last night. It's a reason that baseball is one of the greatest sports, and is the greatest sport, is because it can provide you with moments like that and drama like that. It's theatrical, it's beautiful, it's the best game in the world. We'll talk to you next week. Go Yankees, let's go. We are the American League pennant winners. We'll see you next week. Subscribe, like the show, comment on the show, do whatever you want. Tell me how much you love the Yankees. This is the Powell Not Found podcast. Just absolutely elated. Let's go Yankees. Let's go.
Although she knew it was coming, we tried not to tell her.